A young Comanche girl is abruptly awakened by a person who kicks her with their foot. Still groggy, she gets up and steps into the open air. Later that day, she is harvesting root crops when her dog, Sari, runs off into the forest, barking. She looks up and notices a tree in the distance. In the following scene, she is practicing her axe-throwing skills, demonstrating considerable talent. While retrieving her axe from a throw, she spots some hoofprints in the dirt and decides to follow them, which leads her to a white-tailed deer. She gives her dog some instructions and attempts to hunt the deer with her axe. Suddenly, a loud rumble is heard in the atmosphere, startling the deer and causing it to flee. Ignoring the source of the rumble, Naru gives chase to the deer alongside Sari. Naru throws her axe at the deer, but misses. She hears her dog, who continued the chase, cry out in pain. Naru finds Sari whimpering with her tail caught in a trap. After freeing the dog, she examines the trap and detaches it from its chain. The rumbling sound is heard again, and Naru looks into the distance for the source. Following Sari to the edge of a cliff, she sees a large object falling through the sky. Later that day, Naru is being taught by her brother, Taabe, how to use a bow and arrow. Taabe tells her about his kutamia, or big hunt, with their father when she was younger, and she tells him about the falling object earlier, calling it a thunderbird, and claiming it is a sign for her to transition from being a healer to becoming a great hunter. Naru heads back to the village and has a conversation with her mother about her decision to become a hunter. Her mother asks her why she wants to become a hunter when she excels at so many other things, and Naru responds that it's because everyone thinks she can't become a hunter. Her mother gives her a leather pouch and tells her to go find some orange tatsia, a medicinal flower. In the next scene, a spaceship is seen making itself invisible before ascending amid rumbling, revealing that it was the source of the rumbling earlier. Then, a predator rises up, becoming invisible while making clicking sounds. Meanwhile, Naru is at the outskirts of the village, collecting the orange flowers her mother asked her to find when she hears her tribesmen ululating. Approaching the village, a hunter informs her that Puhi, their tribesman, has been taken by a lion. The village hunters, including Taabe, enter into the forest in a quest to track down the lion and Puhi. One of the hunters hears clicking noises and aims his bow in the direction of the sound, but Taabe stops him from firing as Naru walks into view from a distance. Paka mocks Naru by saying they won't be gone long enough to need a cook. However, Taabe defends Naru, saying she tracks well, and if they find Puhi alive, her knowledge of medicine would be helpful. Taabe tells Naru that she needs to find the lion to prove herself to the other hunters, and Naru agrees. In the next scene, an ant climbs an invisible object, only to be eaten by a rat. A rattlesnake then catches the rat, but as it's about to leave with its meal, it senses the predator and attempts to strike. The predator is faster, stabbing the rattlesnake and skinning it in seconds. Sari soon leads the hunters to Puhi, who is gravely wounded but still alive. As night falls, the hunters use tree branches to craft a stretcher and torches, while Naru applies ointment to Puhi's wounds. She then feeds him some of the orange flowers, causing him to shiver almost immediately. As the hunters prepare to return to the village, Taabe informs Naru that he wants to stay and hunt the lion. Naru insists on following him, stating that the lion isn't their only concern. She argues that something must have scared the lion away, or it would have killed Puhi. Taabe refuses, and Naru is forced to go with the hunting party. As they continue on their way, Sari leaves the trail and discovers the skinned rattlesnake. Naru finds large footprints next to the snake. One of the hunters approaches her. The hunter argues that the footprint must belong to a bear. Naru counters that bears have no reason to stand on their hind legs in such a place, nor do they have the ability to skin a snake. The hunter then tells Paka to accompany her to warn Taabe. Soon, Naru and Paka encounter Taabe. Naru tells her brother about the tracks she found. Regardless, Taabe insists they must deal with the lion first. Naru suggests they bait the lion and wait. Paka rudely refuses, insisting that they should actively hunt the lion instead. But Taabe aligns with Naru's idea, stating that it's time for her kutamia. Naru and Paka prepare fresh meat to use as bait, placing it at the base of a tree with a blood trail leading up to it, while Taabe ventures off in search of the lion. As they perch in the tree, Paka mocks Naru, taunting her about her inexperience with lions and questioning her courage to use her weapons when the time comes. Suddenly, the lion finds Paka, dragging him down and beginning to maul him. Naru aims her bow and arrow at the lion, but the lion notices and swiftly climbs the tree to confront her. Backing away toward the end of a branch, Naru is distracted by a red light in the distance. The lion pounces. Naru loses her balance, but stabs the lion before falling. Naru awakens later in her mother's mother's tent, where she learns that Tabe carried her home while he continued hunting the lion alone. Her mother reveals that Puhi survived thanks to Naru's earlier treatment. She explains to Naru that the purpose of Kutamiya is not to prove oneself as a hunter, but to learn how to survive. Amid their conversation, a child alerts the villagers that Tabe has returned. He is bloodied, triumphantly carrying the dead lion's body and its decapitated head. Later that night, the villagers celebrate the hunt and honor Tabe with the title of War Chief, while Naru watches quietly from the crowd. As she turns to leave, Tabe spots her and approaches. She tells him that there is something else in the forest that they need to hunt. He reminds her of how he had to carry her home and that she wasn't capable of handling a lion, and sadly asserts that she cannot hunt before walking away. The following morning, Naru's mother wakes her with a nudge of her foot, signaling time for farming. Initially, Naru obeys, but then changes her mind. She heads back to the tent, grabs her weapons, and ventures out with her sari in search of the predator. In a different part of the forest, utilizing its heat vision, the predator watches a wolf hunt a rabbit. Just as the wolf catches the rabbit, the invisible predator intercepts it. The wolf manages to bite the predator's leg, drawing glowing green blood, but is swiftly killed when it attempts another attack. The predator then proceeds to cut the wolf open and retrieves its spine, still attached to the head. Meanwhile, Naru is struggling to hunt rabbits with her throwing axe, but finds she takes too long to retrieve it. She creatively makes a rope from tree bark, attaching it to the axe for quicker retrieval after each throw, which works excellently, allowing her to kill several rabbits. The predator continues its macabre work, spraying the wolf's head with a substance that strips it of soft tissue, leaving only the skull. It casually attaches the skull to its utility belt and stands up after hearing Sari barking in the distance. Naru soon stumbles upon a prairie littered with skinned buffalo carcasses. Devastated, she kneels beside the nearest one, placing a herb from her pouch on the carcass's head and whispering a prayer. As she does this, she notices a spent cartridge nearby and curiously sniffs it, pondering its origin. Meanwhile, the predator tracks Naru and Sari from a distance. As Naru searches for the predator, she notices claw marks on a tree. Attempting to move closer, she suddenly falls waist deep into quicksand. By now, the predator has reached the field of dead buffalo. It examines the spent cartridge and picks up the leaf Naru placed on the buffalo she prayed for, as if recognizing her mark. Struggling in the quicksand, Naru sinks deeper with each movement. With determination, she retrieves her axe and throws it repeatedly until it catches on some tree roots, allowing her to pull herself to safety. While she washes off the mud in a stream, Sari returns from a hunt, proudly carrying a dead rat. Hearing a nearby growl, Naru goes to investigate and finds a bear devouring a deer. She readies her bow to shoot an arrow at the bear, but just as she aims, the bowstring detaches. Frantically, she tries to reattach it while the bear notices her and charges. When it's just a few yards away, Sari barks furiously at the bear, leading it away from Naru. Seizing the opportunity, she swiftly repairs her bow and gives chase. Naru spots Sari running back toward her, with the bear in pursuit, and just then shoots the bear. It barely flinches and continues its charge. Naru drops her bow and sprints toward a nearby beaver dam, seeking refuge as the bear claws and tears through the structure. Just as the bear is about to close in, it hears a series of clicking sounds, diverting its attention to the new threat. The bear and the predator engage in a fierce battle. The bear initially gains the upper hand, mauling the predator badly. However, the predator quickly recovers. The predator knocks it out with a single blow. It lifts the bear, disemboweling it and bathing in its blood. Meanwhile, Naru quickly swims away from the chaos. The predator notices Naru, but she is quickly carried away by the rushing river currents. Farther downstream, she crawls out of the water and squeezes her clothes dry before continuing to walk through the forest. She runs into 4 hunters from her village. Paka informs her that they were sent by Tabe to bring her back. Naru explains that she has seen the monster responsible for the footprints and describes it. The hunters don't believe her and mock her instead. Frustrated by their mockery, Naru turns to leave, but Paka stops her, causing a fight to erupt. Finally fed up, Paka tells Naru that she can leave if she wants to. However, when she drops her guard, he delivers a decisive punch that overwhelms her, asserting that she will be returned to the village. The predator observes the entire scene from a nearby treetop. They soon pause to rest beside a fallen tree trunk, where Paka confiscates Naru's axe, mockingly saying that she keeps a leash on her weapons. After the 4th hunter excuses himself to relieve himself, the remaining hunters and Naru hear a series of clicking sounds. The hunters notice movement nearby, and Paka shoots an arrow, hitting a possum. They laugh at the absurdity of their perceived threat, but Naru insists that something must have driven the possums their way. Undeterred, Paka leaps over the fallen trunk to retrieve the possum he shot, showcasing it to the others for further amusement. Suddenly, 3 lasers appear on Paka's chest, and he watches in confusion as they shift across his body. 3 projectiles strike him, hitting the spots where the lasers settled. Naru urges the 2 hunters to untie her, but they refuse, instructing her to stay down as they aim their arrows and survey the woods for the predator. Desperate, she reaches for a jagged piece of wood and tries to cut herself free. The hunters notice something pulling the projectiles from Paka's corpse. In a courageous but futile effort, the hunters charge at the predator. They manage to wound it, but they are no match for its ferocity. The predator quickly dispatches them, decapitating one and pinning the other to the fallen tree trunk. Amid the chaos, Naru retrieves her axe from Paka's body and frees her hands. Realizing the dire situation, she turns and flees from the forest, sprinting into a prairie where she encounters the 4th hunter who had left to empty his bowel, and using hand signal, Naru tells him that the other hunters are dead. The hunter readies an arrow, believing he can catch the predator off guard, but Naru spots 3 red lasers on his forehead. She pushes him aside as the projectiles whiz past. Both turn to flee. However, the predator is faster and soon overtakes the trailing hunter, killing him. Naru escapes the grass field, but becomes ensnared in a bear trap as she tries to enter the forest. Struggling to free herself, she notices the predator approaching, but surprisingly not attacking. Instead, it stops to examine the trap's chain. Suddenly, a group of chattering French trappers emerge from the trees, and one of them knocks Naru out with the butt of his gun. Watch out for part 2 coming up soon.